Alright, welcome to another video on ChatGPT prompt engineer for developers. So, because right now I am on the second sprint, so my intent is to wrap this course by the end of this week. Alright, so even though that I put here, for example, about the inference when I supposed to end this. It turns out to be today, okay, about the inferring, and then also the transforming. So my intent to in transforming is based on this, okay, as well as expanding again here in this, here in this. That's right, and ultimately the chatbot. Where now this is more for you guys from 27 to yeah, from okay, so from 27 to 28, right? And this now belongs to the sprint 2. Sprint 2, that's right. Sprint number 2. And actually using is Notion because it's a very good tool for, in my case, keep track of my own progress, as well as defining other kind of projects, right? So for example, my 3-2-1 backup strategy, ChatGPT prompt engineering for developers, and so on and so forth, right? So then you have the landing page with you in Storybook, another project. But for this is ChatGPT, right? And when I look at the projects here, I also set another kind of project here. So, for example, like the cybersecurity and Python for for business data analytics, securing yourself financially in the business consulting. Okay, so my intent is to wrap this model of the business consulting freelancer by the end of the next month. All right, and yeah, so that's actually lasts a year and 4 months, 2 months, a year and 2 months to complete this and to actually understand and pondering all of these ideas, especially when it comes to become a business consulting freelancer. But for this, right, we're focused on the ChatGPT prompt engineer for developers. Okay. Oh my God, no. Mhm. There you got it. There you got it. Okay. So, that's right. So I'm not going to make a quick recap as I usually do. Instead, I'm just going to jump straight forward into the last two most common use cases for prompt engineering, like summarizing, especially when you want to uh, summarize a lot of articles on the internet, especially because you don't have the time to read about that. Well, using this to do that will enhance uh, your ability and also to decide where you can take a look. So the keywords for prompt, or for example, here, so the prompt keywords or topics to use, especially for summarizing, is or summarizing or extract. And the common use case for that is like, for example, lawyers that they have large amount of data or huge amount of documents that they want to uh, understand to get a sense, of what's in that document, but don't have the time to actually understand or to dedicate to read about that. So providing an option with a link or a button if they want to dig in. Uh, yeah, if they want to dig in more. Okay, so this is a particular use case when using summarizing, right? Good, good. Because with that, interesting. That's something interesting. That's something interesting. Even that I can provide value to lawyers based on that. Mhm. I can provide value to lawyers based on that. Interesting. hmm hmm Okay. Okay. And then I look at inferring. So yeah. Then I look at inferring because with this inferring is isoful for mention that you can. So she think about this task, summarizing, inferring, transforming, and expanding. So she think about that. Um, mhm. Okay, so Isa Fulford mentioned that she think about this task where the model takes a text of inputs and performs some sort of analysis, name extraction, uh, kind of understanding the sentiment of the text, and that kind of thing. So Andrew mentioned, well, for sentiment extraction, okay, if you want to extract the sentiment, positive or negative, of a piece of text, the traditional machine learning workflow is you collect the label data set and then you train the model and ultimately find out where to deploy your model somewhere in the internet that can be accessible and well provide that particular and can do that particular task. Extract sentiment, positive or negative, right? So that could work pretty well, but a lot of the work, but there is a lot of work to go through that process. Okay, and things like sentiment, extracting names, extracting names, we have to deploy a different model, meaning that for a particular task, we have is to example extracting the name, we have to collect the data, collect the label data set, then train the model and find a way to deploy that model on the internet so everybody can access to that or our clients can access to that. And this is just for one model that performed a specific task. Okay, but now the powerful thing of the nice thing about this large language model is that is for many tasks we can just write a prompt and get the results quickly, which give tremendous speed in terms of application development. So understanding this and all the previous work that we have, or perhaps uh, all the previous work that other developers, machine learning developers, has to do to build a model that can face a particular task, okay, whether it is natural language processing or in the realm of video or text, okay. For example, in our case, the sentiment. So for extracting the sentiments of a piece of text, the traditional machine learning the workflow is to collect the label data sets, then train the model, and then find out a way to deploy that somewhere in the internet. And this is just for one task, you know. For another task, you have to repeat the process, works uh, which works pretty well, but there is a lot of work to go through that process. Okay, so with this now large language model, the beauty of the nice thing about this large language model is that for many of these tasks, we can write a prompt, getting the results quickly, giving tremendous speed in terms of application development, and also the simplicity because we have one model, one API to perform different tasks. Again, this is sorry. Again, this is in the realm of this large language model. Okay, this large language model. So the prompt key words and topics here are sentiment, so you can extract the sentiment for positive or negative. Identify type of emotion of a piece of text. Information extraction such as the identity or to identify the company names or the product. Okay, to identify the company or product names. Information extractions, doing multiple tasks as one, like sentiments extraction, identify or information extractions, and inferring topic. Again, these are the five most common things that you can do when it comes to inferring. Okay, from keyword topics. Okay, okay. Mhm. Okay. So prompt keyword topics or sentiment, which you get an positive or negative. Identify type of emotion based on a piece of text. Is this text? Is the author of this text? Yeah, yeah. Is the author of this text uh, give an answer reply? Give an anger reply, or a happy reply, a sad reply. Okay, so identify type of emotions, information extractions, like extracting the company name, extracting or identify company or product names, information extractions, doing multiple tasks as one, like sentiment classification, topic extractions, and inferring topics. Okay, so for the number two, identify type of emotion, you can identify the customer product review, right? And for the inferring topic, you can say, hey, extract and count topics on a text. Okay, extract and count topics on a text. Okay, all right. So now let's going to jump here to this. And then we are transformed.
Large language models are very good at transforming its input to a different format, such as inputting a piece of text in one language and transforming it or translating it to a different language, or helping with spelling and grammar corrections. So taking as input a piece of text that may not be fully grammatical and helping you to fix that up a bit, or even transforming formats, such as inputting HTML and outputting JSON. So there's a bunch of applications that I inputting
Mm,
HTML and outputting JSON.
that's right. Transforming is one language to another for checking spelling and grammar errors, or to transform from HTML to a JSON. Okay.
So there's a bunch of applications that I used to write somewhat painfully with a bunch of regular expressions that would definitely be much more simply inputting HTML and outputting JSON. So there's a bunch of applications that I used to write somewhat painfully with a bunch of regular expressions that would definitely be much more simply implemented now with a large language model and a few prompts.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to proofread pretty much everything I write these days, so I'm excited to show you some more examples in the notebook now. So first we'll
A bunch
Wait,
of
what?
regular expressions that would definitely be much more simply implemented now with a large language model and a few prompts.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to proofread pretty much everything I write these days, so I'm excited to show you some more examples in the notebook now. So first we'll import OpenAI and also use the same getCompletion helper function that we've been using throughout the videos. And the first thing we'll do is a translation task. So large language models are trained on a lot of text from kind of many sources, a lot of which is the internet, and this is kind of course, in many different languages. So this kind of imbues the model with the ability to do translation. And these models know kind of hundreds of languages to varying degrees of proficiency. And so we'll go through some examples of how to use this capability. So let's start off with something simple. So in this first example, the prompt is, translate the following English text to Spanish. Hi, I would like to order a blender. And the response is, hola, me gustaría ordenar una licuadora. And I'm very sorry to all of you Spanish speakers. I never learned Spanish, unfortunately, as you can definitely tell. Okay, let's try another example. So in this example, the prompt is, tell me what language this is. And then this is in French, combien coûte le lampadaire? And so let's run this.
Combien coûte
And the model has
lampadaire?
identified that this is French. The model can also do multiple translations at once. So in this example, let's say, translate the following text to French and Spanish. And you know what, let's add an English pirate. And the text is, I want to order a basketball. So here we have French,
I've been wanting to
Spanish,
order a basketball.
and English pirate. So in some languages, the translation can change depending on the speaker's relationship to the listener. And you can also explain this to the language model, and so it will be able to kind of translate accordingly. So in this example, we say, translate the following text to Spanish in both the formal and informal forms. Would you like to order a pillow? And also notice here, we're using a different delimiter than these backticks. It doesn't really matter as long as it's kind of a clear separation. So here we have the formal and informal. So formal is when you're speaking to someone who's maybe senior to you or you're in a professional situation. That's when you use the formal tone. And then informal is when
So when
you're
they're
speaking
seniors
to
to you.
maybe a group of friends. I don't actually speak Spanish, but my dad does, and he says that this is correct. So for the next example, we're going to pretend that we're in charge of a multinational e-commerce company. And so the user messages are going to be in all different languages. And so users are going to be telling us about their IT issues in a wide variety of languages. So we need a universal translator. So first, we'll just paste in a list of user messages in a variety of different languages. And now we will loop through each of these user messages. So for issue in user messages. And then I'm going to copy over this slightly longer code block. And so the first thing we'll do is ask the model to tell us what
So tell me
language
what
the issue is
tell me what the
in.
language
So here's the
this
prompt.
is.
Then we'll print out the original message's language and the issue. And then we'll ask the model to translate it into English and Korean. So let's run this. So the original message in French.
In Spanish.
So we have a variety of languages, and then the model translates them into English and then Korean. And you can kind of see here, so the model says, this is French. So that's because the response from this prompt is going to be, this is French. You could try editing this prompt to say something like, tell me what language this is, respond with only one word, or don't use a sentence, that kind of thing, if you wanted this to just be one word. Or you could ask for it in a JSON format or something like that, which would probably encourage it to not use a whole sentence. And so, amazing, you've just built a universal translator. And also feel free to pause the video and add kind of any other languages you want to try here, maybe languages you speak yourself, and see how the model does. So the next thing we're going to dive into is tone transformation. Writing can vary based on an intended audience. The way that I would write an email to a colleague or a professor is obviously going to be quite different to the way I text my younger brother. And so ChatGPT can actually also help produce different tones. So let's look at some examples. So in this first example, the prompt is, translate the following from slang to a business letter. Dude, this is Joe. Check out this spec on the standing lamp. So let's execute this. And as you can see, we have a much more formal business letter with a proposal for a standing lamp specification. The next thing that we're going to do is to convert between different formats. ChatGPT is very good at translating between different formats, such as JSON to HTML, XML, all kinds of things, Markdown. And so in the prompt, we'll describe both the input and the output formats. So here is an example. So we have this JSON that contains a list of restaurant employees with their name and email. And then in the prompt, we're going to ask the model to translate this from JSON to HTML. So the prompt is, translate the following Python dictionary from JSON to an HTML table with column headers and titles. And then we'll get the response.
And get a response for
model
completion,
and
right,
print
with
it.
that helper function.
So here we have some HTML displaying all of the employee names and emails. And so now let's see if we can actually view this HTML. So we're going to use this display
You're going to use
function
this
from
specific
this
function
Python
here,
library.
like display the HTML response in lowercase.
And here you can see that this is a properly formatted HTML table. The next transformation task we're going to do is spell check and grammar checking. And this is a really kind of popular use for ChatGPT. I highly recommend doing this. I do this all the time. And it's especially useful when you're working in a non-native language. And so here are some examples of some common grammar and spelling problems and how the language model can help address these. So I'm going to paste in a list of sentences that have some grammatical or spelling errors. And then we're going to loop through each of these sentences and ask the model to proofread these. Proofread and correct. And then we'll use some delimiters.
The delimiters in there, that's right, for the text, for each one of those sentences. Proof I'm correct.
And then we will get the response and print it as usual. And so the model is able to correct all of these grammatical errors. We could use some of the techniques that we've discussed before. So we could, to improve the prompt, we could say proofread and correct the following text.
Incorrect the
And
following
rewrite.
text.
Oh. And rewrite the whole.
So now she's using triple quotes
Corrected
to deliver the different part of your input, part of the
version if
tactics
you
from the guidelines.
don't find any errors.
From the principle
Just
one,
say
write specific, clear, and
no errors
instruction. Right. Write clear and specific
Let's try
instruction.
this. So this way we were able to, oh, they're still using quotes here. But you can imagine you'd be able to find a way with a little bit of iterative prompt development to kind of find a prompt that works more reliably every single time. And so now we'll do another example. It's always useful to check your text before you post it in a public forum. And so we'll go through an example of checking a review. And so here is a review about a stuffed panda. And so we're going to ask the model to proofread and correct the review. Great, so we have this corrected version. And one cool thing we can do is find the kind of differences between our original review and the model's output. So we're going to use this Redlines Python package to do this, and we're going to get the diff between the original text of our review and the model output, and then display this. And so here you can see the diff between the original review and the model output and the kind of things that have been corrected. So the prompt that we used was proofread and correct this review, but you can also make kind of more dramatic changes, changes to tone and that kind of thing. So let's try one more thing. So in this prompt, we're going to ask the model to proofread and correct this same review, but also make it more compelling and ensure that it follows APA style and targets an advanced reader. And we're also going to ask for the output in Markdown format. And so we're using the same text from the original review up here. So let's execute this. And here we have a
now the tonality.
APA style review of the soft panda. So this is it for the transforming video. Next up we have expanding, where we'll take a shorter prompt and kind of generate a longer, more free-form response from a language model.
This transformer, okay. So this transforming, okay. So let me go over this transformer, because to me it's like something interesting. After all, for example, if you want to transform JavaScript code to WebAssembly or Rust, it will be based on how many articles or how many sources this model has been trained to provide a very good outcome for that. You know what I mean? So for example, if I go to ChatGPT, or for example here, which is actually operating the same way. So if I doing this, hey, instead of translate, okay, you ask the following. Give me a component, give me a view 3 components Yeah, give me a view 3 component that render a bubble chart. A bubble chart. With 3 variables: age, gender, and time span on the internet. So now I'm waiting for the response. Give the model time to think. That's another. So give me a view 3 component that render a bubble chart. Come on, man. Oh, come on. With 3 variables: age, gender, and time spent on the internet. It's not is forbidden. Okay, doesn't matter. Let me reload this. Waiting for the data to be transferred. I download that using AWS. There you go. So now it's telling me that this is not trust. Okay, but I'm not receiving. I'm not receiving any reply from that. Yeah, I'm not receiving any reply for that. Okay. Okay, so what about now? And when I ask this, okay, the model doesn't reply anything back. Perhaps because the model has been bombarded with questions. What about this? If I ask directly to ChatGPT web-based web interface, but now it's using is the view 2, not view 3. Because at the end of the day, the model has not been updated for that. Type bubble, and then he's going to build that. Interesting. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Mhm. Okay. So that's right. Let's move on to the transforming. Now let's going to take notes here.
Large language models are very good at transforming its input to a different format, such as inputting a piece of text in one language and transforming it or translating it to a different language, or helping with spelling and
This is important.
large language models are
So now let's go to here. This is a use case, and then transforming.
very good at transforming its input to a different format,
Exactly. So large language models are very good.
such as large language models are very good at
So large language models are very good at transforming text
transforming its input to a different format, such as
or transforming it is input into a different format. Crucial here.
inputting a piece of text in one language and transforming it or translating it to a different language,
Text translation, text transforming or translation from one language to another.
or helping with spelling and grammar correction. So taking as input a piece of text that may not be fully helping with spelling and grammar correction. So
Or helping with spelling and grammar correction.
taking as input a piece of text that may not be fully grammatical and helping you to fix that up a bit, or even transforming formats such
So text transforming, okay, or helping with spelling and grammar correction.
as and helping you to fix that up a bit, or even transforming formats
Exactly. Or even transforming formats.
such as inputting HTML and
Or even transforming format, such as
outputting JSON, transforming formats such as inputting HTML and outputting
exactly, or even transforming formats, such as
JSON, transforming formats such as inputting HTML and
exactly, such as inputting HTML to a JSON.
outputting JSON. So there's a bunch of applications that I used to write somewhat painfully with a bunch of regular expressions that would definitely be much more simply implemented now with a large language model and a few expressions that would definitely be much more simply implemented now with a large language model and a few prompts.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to proofread pretty much everything I write these days.
Proofread, proofread, proofreading. What the hell is proofreading, man? It's an iterative process of comparing Gaelic proof against the original manuscript or graphic artworks to identify transcription errors in the typesetting process. Proofreading. Okay. Proofreading. Ah, okay. How do you say that in Spanish? Spanish. Proofreading. How do you say that in Spanish? Corrección de texto. Exactly. corrección de prueba, proofreading. Ok, proofreading. Proofreading, corrección de texto. Interesting. Ok, proofreading. Corrección de texto. To proofread. Para corregir texto in Spanish. Ok.
So I'm excited to show you some more examples in the notebook now.
So Isa Fulford mentioned that that's right. So LLMs are very good. Interesting.
Large language models are very good at
Are very good, exactly. Large language models are very good. Interesting. Large language models. When it comes to acronyms, it doesn't detect that. So large language models are very good in transforming. So when it's a noun, they use are, but when it comes to a subject or like she, he, now they use is. Okay, so large language models are very good at transforming this input into different formats. So text transforming, translation from one language to another, helping with spelling and grammar corrections, or even transforming formats such as inputting HTML to a JSON. Okay. So Isa Fulford mentioned that she used it for proofreading the document, the
transforming is
essay.
inform correct, fix that, and fully language model in a few prompts.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to proofread pretty much everything I write these days.
So Isa Fulford mentioned that she used ChatGPT to pretty much proofread everything she she writes.
So I'm excited to show you some more examples in the notebook now. Everything I write these days. So I'm excited to show you some more examples in the notebook now. So first we'll import OpenAI and also use the same get completion helper function that we
Okay, we're transforming. Okay. So well, that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.